Hi, I'm Henry, 32, firefighter, steady one, and the guy who used to think quiet meant respected. 3 months after I blew out my knee catching a rookie from falling through a second-story landing, I got an invoice I couldn't ignore. A clean 5-figure number the department's coverage didn't touch. I'd sent it to my parents. They'd promised to help. Said, "Of course, we help. Family helps." Turns out that help got rerouted to a venue with valet parking and floral arrangements that cost more than my rent. That night at family dinner, I asked about it. My knee was throbbing under the table, but I kept my tone even. "Did you get the invoice for my surgery?" I asked, casual as you ask about salt. Dad raised his glass. "We used it for Nate's wedding," he said, like it was a smart investment, not a betrayal. I set down my fork. "So I guess you still don't know who needs this surgery." The silence that followed was surgical. Precise. Mom's smile collapsed in slow motion. Nate's fiancée stopped twirling her pasta. Even the air conditioner picked that moment to shut up. "Wait," Dad said. "Who's the one who needs it?" "I am," I said. "The one who's limping." Nate chuckled like I told a joke he didn't get but figured must be funny. "It's not like your thing was urgent, right? Mine's a once-in-a-lifetime event." I stared at his designer watch. The one I now knew I'd paid for. My knee pulsed in rhythm with the anger building behind my ribs. They all looked at me like I was making it awkward. Like I'd brought politics to Thanksgiving. That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. And I'd finally hit the part of the pattern where I stopped letting it happen. The next day, I built a folder on my phone. Named it, so I remember. I dragged in screenshots. The invoice. The email to Mom with the subject line, "Surgery bill." Dad's thumbs up emoji reaction. Mom's text, "Handled." Then I added a photo of the knee brace. One where you could still see the swelling. Just in case I ever needed a reminder of why I'd stopped explaining myself. 2 days later, Mom started a group chat called Wedding Ops. Like we were planning a military op and not just booking shrimp cocktails and chair covers. Her first message was a seating chart. Me, table 11. I typed, "Is there a reason I'm not with the rest of the family?" Mom replied, "It's quieter back there. You don't like crowds." Nate chimed in. "Plus the groomsmen are closer to the head table. We're doing tiers. It's a vibe." A vibe. That's what my surgery money bought. A tiered vibe. At 3 a.m., with my knee barking and my brain too itchy for sleep, I stared at the screen and realized something simple. I've been underwriting this family's fantasy on a public servant's paycheck. I paid for Nate's bridges, his car registration, his phone bill, the deposit on the engagement ring, a temporary float for a work trip he never took. Every time I asked about it, Mom would say, "He's under pressure." Every time I needed something, they'd say, "You're so responsible. You always figure it out." That was the problem. I always figured it out. So when the hospital called and said, "We haven't received the final payment. Are you rescheduling the surgery?" I took a deep breath. "No," I said. "I'm not moving it." Then I did what I do when a roof caves in or a wall catches. I acted. I drained my savings. My backup fund. The one I'd built paycheck by paycheck. And I paid. In full. Then I opened the group chat and typed a single message. "I'll be at the wedding. Table 11 is fine. Just don't expect me to fund the next tier." No one replied. 3 hours later, I got a call from Dad. He didn't even say hello. Just jumped in with, "You embarrassed your mother." I was in the middle of icing my knee and logging my PT reps, so I set the phone down and put him on speaker. "I embarrassed her," I said, "by paying for my own surgery after she said she would and then didn't." "She did not pay," he argued. "She just reallocated. It was time sensitive." "Yeah," I said. "So was walking." He went quiet. I could almost hear his hand rubbing over his face like he always did when facts got inconvenient. "This is about more than money," he tried again. "It's about how we support each other as a family." "No," I said. "It's exactly about money. The part where I sent you a medical bill and you turned it into centerpieces and shrimp skewers." Silence. We'll figure something out after the wedding, he said. Cool, I replied. Then I'll figure out where I sit at the wedding after I get a check. That's when I wrote the message that turned the whole thing from a quiet grudge into a line in the sand. Hi all, quick update. I won't be contributing to any wedding expenses. I won't be available for emergency Cash App requests. Also, I'll be in the front row only if the full reimbursement for the surgery lands in my account by Friday. Otherwise, I'll attend from the back and leave after the vows. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're braces. Mine's titanium. I attached the invoice, the transfer receipt, and Mom's handled text. Then I muted the chat. Within 60 seconds, the typing bubbles exploded. Mom, you are humiliating me. Dad, this is not the place. And Marie, can we just get through the wedding? Nate, bro, you're choosing money over family. I stared at the screen, then typed back. No. I'm choosing me over cake. Nate, it's 50 grand, not a life. It is a life, I replied. Mine. Mom jumped in. We'll figure something out. I replied. It's not a threat. It's a deadline. Then I turned off my phone and went to work a night shift where we pulled an elderly woman out of a bathtub she'd fallen into 6 hours earlier. She cried when we wrapped her in warm towels. She said, "Thank you for coming." No one said that about the wedding money. Friday came. No money. No apology. Just a photo in the group chat of Nate and his fiancée at a champagne tasting. Caption, finalizing bubbles. So I finalized something too. I bought a new suit. Dark gray, slim fit, stitched well enough to remind me I'm not just the guy who shows up. I left the tags in the pocket like a receipt to myself. Then I booked a cheap motel 5 minutes from the venue. I wasn't driving back on a knee that still sounded like Rice Krispies every time I twisted. Wedding day arrived. I showed up solo, shook hands, smiled politely. Waved to the cousins. The photographer looked at her clipboard and called out, "Parents and siblings, front row for pictures." I stepped back and said, "I'll take mine with the cousins." Her brow furrowed. "You're the brother, right?" "Sure," I said. "But not the funded kind." Mom's eyes snapped to me. Dad looked like he just swallowed a Tic Tac sideways. Nate squinted like he was trying to do math he'd never learned. No one said anything. The ceremony started. I walked myself to the very last row and sat down just before the music swelled. When an usher approached me and said, "You're in the wrong seat, sir," I shook my head. "Family paid for the front row," I said. "I didn't." He blinked, nodded, and stepped back. My phone buzzed. A message from Dad, "Don't do this." I typed back. "Then repay it." He didn't reply. The vows echoed like a movie. People sniffled, clapped, smiled. I watched a leaf fall from a tree just behind the altar. It was the most honest moment I saw that day. Afterwards, I stayed through the first dance, ate a crab cake, and sipped water while 3 relatives told me I looked strong. Then Mom cornered me near the dessert table. "You made a spectacle," she hissed, fake smiling as a guest walked by. "You did," I said calmly. "When you spent my surgery money on shrimp towers." Her mouth twitched. "Lower your voice." I didn't raise it. "Repay what you took and I'll move up a row. Until then, I'm perfect where I am." Dad appeared. "Son, we're not doing the son voice," I said. "We're doing the you took money and got caught voice." Nate slid in, smelling like expensive cologne and entitlement. "Bro, you could have just called me. You watched them do it," I said. "You wore it on your wrist." "It's just money," he said. "No," I replied. "It was a promise." He rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic." I smiled. "Cool. Watch me be consistent, too." Then I stepped away. Back into the fresh air. My knee twinged. My spine stayed straight. Outside, the night was cooler than I expected. I leaned against a stone pillar near valet and let the music from the reception drift over like static from a bad radio. My phone buzzed again. 3 texts. From my captain, "How's the leg?" From my PT, "Monday at 10 o'clock. Bring your brace. Hydrate." From a number I didn't recognize. Hi. I'm Aunt Carol's friend. I'm an attorney. If you ever want help setting legal boundaries with family around money, call me. I laughed out loud. Saved the number. Replied with a thumbs up. The professional kind. Somewhere behind me, someone yelled, "Catch!" and a bouquet flew through the air like a soggy frisbee. I took that as my cue and walked back to the motel. My knee held. The next morning, the group chat lit up again. Not wedding ops. A new one. Just the cousins. We saw where you Saturday. Proud of you, man. I told Aunt Carol last year I'm not paying for her emergency Europe trip. She still went. Got food poisoning in Venice. Karma. Little dominoes tipping, big ones next. I smiled. Then came the message from Mom, return the spare house key if you're going to be petty. 2 minutes later, I didn't mean that. Call me. 10 minutes later, your brother is hurt. You ruined his night. Then an hour later, the one that actually mattered, we need to talk numbers. There it was. The phrase. Numbers. I replied. Great. $31,800. Wire or cashier's check? Due Friday. She came back with, we can do $5,000 now. I said, pay $5,000 now and still owe $26,800 by Friday. Plus fees. Dad called. You're not a bank. He said. You're not either. I said. But you've been acting like one. With my account. He hung up. That week I got quiet. Not sulking. Focused. I iced my knee, logged my reps, finished my second round of PT. At the station, no one pushed. They knew. They'd heard. Firefighters are better than any town gossip column. They brought me coffee. Told bad jokes. Let the space exist. Thursday, 4:02 p.m. The wire hit. $15,900. Transfer label. Gee. I laughed. Then I screenshotted it. Added it to so I remember. Texted back. Received. Balance due $15,900 by the 30th. Mom replied, we're not comfortable with your tone. I replied, I'm not comfortable with a torn ACL. Blocked the chat for 24 hours. The second wire came in at 4:12 p.m. on the 30th. No label. No message. Just numbers. I was mid-ice bath, watching a rerun of some cooking show where the guy screamed at an undercooked scallop like it was a war crime. I stared at the bank app for a long time. Then I swore. Then I laughed. Then I swore again. Done. Paid. Every penny back. Later that night, Nate called. I let it ring once. Twice. Picked up. He didn't open with, hey, you made Mom cry. He didn't open with sorry. He said, Mom made choices. I let that hang in the air for a second. Crying's one consequence, I said. Paying's another. You didn't have to make it public, he said. You didn't have to make my surgery bill a bar tab, I answered. He got quiet. Real quiet. That way you do when someone gives you back the exact size of the thing you didn't want to carry. We couldn't lose the venue, he said, like it explained gravity. You could have saved, I said. Like people do when they plan things they can't afford yet. He sighed. Are we done? He sounded like a little boy asking if his time out was over. No, I said. We're starting. New rules. He didn't reply. What rules? He finally asked. I'm not your bridge, I said. No more float me this or spot me that. If you can't afford it, you don't get to have it. If your car breaks down, call a tow truck. If the rent's short, call your landlord, not me. He exhaled, long and theatrical. You used to be nice. I'm still nice, I said. I'm just not available. 2 weeks later, a cousin told me Sunday dinner ended in a blow-up. Topic, where the money went. Aunt Carol asked. Loudly. Mom said family obligations. Dad said the wedding. Aunt Carol said not to Henry. Apparently Nate's credit card statement looks like a venue invoice in formalware. I didn't celebrate. I made chili. Watched an old sitcom. Sent a photo of my brace-free squat to my captain. My PT said, You're ahead of schedule. I said, I'm stubborn. She said, stubborn is great when it has boundaries. I started running again. Walk-run intervals at first. Then treadmill jogs. My knee barked at me a few times, but quieter each week. I iced. I logged. I progressed. At the next check-in, my PT grinned. You're gonna pass the step test early. Keep this up, and you're back in gear by the end of the quarter. I nodded, then said something I hadn't planned. I bought a new suit. She smiled. Big date? No, I said. Big boundary. That weekend, I wore it to a coworker's baby shower. Took the tags out like a promise. It felt good. Not new. Not expensive. Just right. The next Monday, I got a text from Mom. We miss you. I replied, I'm around. She wrote, coffee? I said, public place. 1 hour. No money talk unless it comes with an apology and a number. She sent a thumbs up emoji. It looked alien on her. When we met, she looked smaller. Or maybe I looked taller. We got 2 iced coffees. Sat outside a cafe that had too many pigeons and not enough shade. She started with family history. Like always. Slid into anecdotes. Then stopped and said something that landed in my chest. We always thought you didn't need anything. I looked at her for a long moment. I did, I said. I needed parents who didn't take from me because I'm quiet. She bit her lip. You make everything sound so simple. It is simple, I said. Don't take what isn't yours. Don't promise what you won't pay. Don't call me selfish when I stop letting you. We finished our coffee. No hug. Just a nod. That felt honest. In the weeks after, quiet things started happening. A cousin texted me. I told Aunt Carol no for the Europe trip this year. An uncle, we're locking the family account. It got out of hand. Even Dad, in a one-line message, I was wrong. I screenshotted it. Not to gloat. To remember that even stubborn men can move an inch. The best moment? The probie. The one I'd caught when the floor gave out. He shook my hand at shift change. In front of everyone. I signed on for another year. He said. Thanks for having my back. I nodded. That's what we do. And that's when I realized this whole thing? It wasn't a revenge story. It was a maintenance story. I paid for the surgery. I got reimbursed. I logged the progress. I kept the brace. Not because I needed it, but as a reminder, some injuries heal, some habits don't. You learn to tell the difference. Now, when my phone buzzes and it's a, hey, quick question, I let it ring. If I answer, I say, text it. If the text is about money, I reply, no. That's it. Not, sorry. Not, I wish I could. Not, maybe later. Just no. Because here's what I've learned. Explanations invite negotiation. A boundary doesn't negotiate. It holds. I'm not the ATM with an emotional pin. I'm a firefighter. I run toward things most people run from. But I don't run into collapses anymore for people who keep lighting matches in their own living rooms. People say family means sacrifice. Sure. But sacrifice without consent is theft. At the next family dinner, I sat where I chose. Mom didn't try to move me. Dad asked how work was, like it was a truce. Nate looked at me longer than usual, like maybe the idea of limits was finally forming behind his eyes. Someone asked how the wedding had been. I said, the venue was lovely. That was enough. Nate, later, pulled me aside near the coat rack. Said quietly, thanks for showing me how to do this. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. The boundary had already spoken. And for once, everyone listened. I kept my job. I kept my savings. I kept my dignity. I'm Henry. And I'm done letting anyone else spend me. That's the whole thing. Short sentences. Clear lines. No metaphors I can't explain to a rookie at 3 a.m. Because some people light fires. Some people run into them. And some of us learn, finally, how to stand outside the blaze and say, not this time. Let the room rearrange. Let the dominoes fall. Let the invoice stand. And let your answer be one word. No.